Um, the Upanishadic period. Upanishads are very philosophical scriptures. At the end of the Vedic period, they take place in this kind of yogic relationship between master and disciple, or teacher and disciple, um, that are giving kind of instruction. The one you'll read one of the Upanishads. It's a it's a story where a young man takes the role of a student or disciple of a master who turns out to be death. He's in the house of death looking for answers about ultimate reality. Um, it's to kind of give you this image of this yogic practice between masters, master student relationship. So um, there is this growing emphasis on the idea of the Atman, the individual's innermost self. We'll see this when we read the Bhagavad Gita. It'll say self in the translation that you have. The self word will be capitalized. It's to distinguish from kind of our kind of transitory elements, our bodies, our families, our language, our just basic day in and day out life stuff are seen as more illusory and impermanent, but there's a part within each one called the Atman that's part of the ultimate universal soul, the Brahman, that seeks to be kind of reunited. The idea is kind of like a drop in the ocean. So it's part of the goal of kind of escaping these cycles of life and death and rebirth, the kind of hammering out of what this idea of the Atman is comes to the fore during this time period. And here again, that remains pretty constant into modern Hinduism. This is a modern Hindu website, and they're kind of presenting what Hinduism is about, right? And so this gets at that Vedic Upanishadic period with the Atman, right? Man is a god in the making. Inside his body resides the eternal soul, whose ultimate destiny is liberation. This is kind of the breath that exists in him is also the same life breath that sustains the universe. This is kind of that everything is one. Ultimate reality is the goal of everything. It's still prominent in modern expressions of Hinduism. It comes out of this Upanishad period. Then we get to the classical period. During this period is when Buddhism comes to the fore. The Buddha is born in a Hindu context. We'll give some serious attention to that. He's a reformer of the Hindu religion. He uses Hindu categories, Hindu ideals and ideas to express what he's apprehended about the world. We see the Upanishads become more centrally important part of the sum total of the Vedic scriptures. The Aryan high gods, they kind of take on some of the non-Aryan gods. There's more of a unification of the sort of the pantheons, the collection of the gods that they have. There's this growing unification between the different classes and different cultures that have been brought together. Also, the non-Aryans are given a place in the caste system, and some of them are given a place outside the caste system. The Aryan caste would have been the Brahmins, the warriors, and the kind of merchant class. Servants and anything else were not really originally in that Varna system. There were these three castes, and then you add in the sort of the servant caste, the lower kind of hired hands, and then below that is the untouchables, people who are outside the social order altogether. They're considered really kind of almost untouchable. So this Dalit caste, Interestingly, early on in Christian history, Christianity came into India, and the one group that really latched on in those early years, St. Thomas is traditionally accepted as the person who went there as a missionary, possibly known as Doubting Thomas um, to many. He went there as a missionary, and there were significant numbers of kind of Indian churches that trace their history back to those earliest churches, and oftentimes they're very prominent among these kind of Dalit, untouchable peoples. The caste system really applies to uh, Hindu peoples of this kind of certain social order. And interestingly, according to certain interpretations of Hinduism, you can't really be a Hindu unless you're born into that social order, not fully, not in a full sense. Again, we'll come back to that. It's in the classical period that we see the great stories. We're not really going to talk about the laws of Manu. I want to focus on the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. You'll read a synopsis of the Mahabharata. You'll watch a short kind of cartoon version of the Ramayana. Don't be offended by that. It's just an easy way to get the story across quickly. If you've ever been into like an Indian grocery store, you'll know that many of their like epic stories are presented in sort of a superhero movie element, either animated or live action. There's this sense of these gods and heroes, very important to the culture. We'll read the Bhagavad Gita in full, like I said earlier. That's a part of the Mahabharata, but we'll read that in full section because it's very important to many Hindus today, and even many great reformers. Gandhi was very much inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. As for the Mahabharata, when you read the summary, you'll see whatever is here is found elsewhere, but whatever is not here is nowhere else. Is this kind of claim that this is this huge epic that kind of engulfs the whole of life and all the issues that could possibly be raised by life. Not meaning that, every story is here, but that the meaning and the purpose behind all stories is ultimately here, is kind of what that quote is laying claim to. You'll see within the Mahabharata this very foreign aspects of Hindu culture for us, mostly. The focus on focus on cows, the focus on the importance of kind of the king's job to revere the priestly caste and to protect them. The multiplicity of names, not the focus on the unity, but a focus on the multiplicity. This dying advice from Bhishma. It's literally 2 chapters long and covers all these kind of priestly and caste-oriented religious aspects. He also talks a good bit about women, and we'll get into that later. The view on women. You'll see some of it as you read. The Ramayana, like I said, you can watch. It's a prominent story. There's a clip from a Balinese kind of ritual towards the Monkey King god. That's a very important god of kind of luck and good fortune. He's a god of courage. He's a helper to Vishnu, very devoted to Vishnu. So a lot of people that are devoted to the high god Vishnu are also devoted to this Monkey King god. So the story is a very prominent one, and it's the one you'll watch in kind of an animated format just to get a sense of the story.